Hey everyone, Matthew Miller here. Today I'm doing my review over Walter Brueggemann's contribution to Asiatic scholarship through his commentary on Isaiah in the Westminster Bible Companion. I found this commentary to be really accessible, one of Walter Brueggemann's more accessible works, in that the intention of the commentary itself is to put scholarship into the hands of lay readers to understand the depths of these books and be able to articulate them in their Bible classes and their community, their faith communities in the local context. And so I really enjoyed the read. And if you're familiar with Walter Brueggemann's works at all, this book doesn't vary very much from some of his others in that he has a heavy emphasis on the speech of Israel. He is less concerned, I'm not going to say he's not concerned with it, but he's less concerned with issues of historical reality and more concerned with the reality of the text. What do we have articulated? That God is a God of the text and he works through the text. And so a lot of that comes out through his commentary on Isaiah. And the primary thematic elements that he brings out in his commentary are the fact that Isaiah has to do with prosperity, with rebellion, with displacement, and rehabilitation, or also restoration. And these are sort of the primary emphases that he brings about, continues to draw readers back to throughout his book. And so I want to look at two different elements of the book. The first is just an analysis of the content, just a brief overview of the layout of the book and some of the interpretive approaches that he takes. And then second, I want to take a little more about the context, the social context that he is trying to work within and draw readers into seeing. And so first I want to look at, again, this content analysis. The book is broken up into two volumes. The first volume covers up to chapter 39, and then the second volume covers chapters 40 through 66. These books cover 8 chapters, and each of these chapters roughly corresponds to a section of Isaiah and concerns that section's key theological emphases. And so this division of the commentary also sort of roughly correlates with the division that scholars usually make concerning the division of the authorship of Isaiah itself. And Brueggemann takes that approach. He sees chapters 1 through 39 as coming after 700 BCE, concerning primarily the Assyrian invasion. Chapters 40 through 55, what is oftentimes considered Deutero-Isaiah, constitute the invasion of Babylon and the exile that was resultant from that. And that came around 586 BCE. And then he looks at chapters 56 through 66 as sort of being a social construction of Israel post-Babylonian exile. This covers the time of the Persian Empire, and he sees this as occurring around 520 BCE. And he doesn't really emphasize much of the text critical elements. He's more concerned with giving a voice to the theology and the text itself, and less about the historical realities, though he definitely brings that into his discussion, and as I'll talk about in the second portion of this. And so this emphasis that he continues to bring up is between Israel's unmerited grace and Israel's covenant keeping. And this unmerited grace that Yahweh continues to pour out upon Israel despite their rejection and rebellion. He said that this is a tension that is dynamic and that continues and can be seen throughout the entire faith of Israel. And he sees this sort of break here between chapter 39 and 40 as what he calls a formative pause. This demonstrates Yahweh's strangeness, and he likes to talk about Yahweh's strangeness and the way he works, showing that this is a narrative space in which God is doing something formative. the time between chapter 39 and chapter 40. And so, though Isaiah arose over a span of, in Walter Brueggemann's understanding, a span of 160 years from various authors and redactors, that there's a theological unity that continues to permeate the entire book. That even though there can be attributed to different authors, it can be attributed to different redactors, that there's still a holistic picture that we need to be seeing when we consider Isaiah. And I really liked that approach because oftentimes scholarship of Isaiah has just seemed to be disjointed based on these divisions that scholars make between the book. And I like that even though he gives assent to the fact that there is a division in authorship and time, this still constitutes a whole. And we need to take Isaiah as a text that, as we have, the sort of, even though there's a distinction between the two, that there's a canonical relatedness that we need to be considering. And I really appreciated that approach from Brueggemann, and I thought that approach would be more accessible for reading communities who are trying to understand Isaiah. And so the second part of this I want to talk about is this sort of interpretive context in which Walter Brueggemann is working. We know for any reader of the Hebrew Bible or the Christian scriptures that the exilic period is a formative period in the life of Israel, and as a result, the life of Christianity. And so he really does a lot throughout the book to demonstrate the struggle that this diaspora event has brought about within the life of Israel. That given this quickly shifting socio-political climate, this pluralistic character, and this, in our context, sort of the rising matrix of postmodernism, that this ancient text that covers this diaspora event also finds a home within 21st century Western Christians who are reading this text. Though not a one-to-one parallel, he would say that what we are experiencing in the rapid shift in culture is causing a lot of communities to describe themselves as being displaced or being landless, to be exiles in their own home. And so he identifies this rough likeness to Babylon between Western culture and their political emphasis and Babylon through free market consumerism and unbridled militarism. And he says that each of these reduce the human community to a commodity, something that is commonplace and something that is to be used to benefit the state of the empire, as opposed to being a viable, growing community under God's rule. And so I really like that he took this emphasis, because what he effectively accomplishes through doing this is drawing readers into Isaiah with fresh eyes, of saying this is not an ancient dusty text that we need to just dust off because it's there. No, this is a text that is viable and living and speaks to the experience of believers today. And it also gave rise to the expectation of those early Christians as well. He doesn't, from an interpretive standpoint, Brueggemann rejects the notion that the book of Isaiah's specific intent was to give prophetic foresight into the Christ event. However, the approach that he takes is that this openness of the text allows for such an imaginative rereading that later Christian communities could retain these emphasis and see how Jesus fills full the intentions of Isaiah, even though Isaiah may not have specifically had Jesus in mind when he is articulating this. This approach sees past supersessionist tendencies and takes the text for where it's at, as opposed to reading certain theologies into the text. And although I may have some disagreements on certain components with Brueggemann on that, I think that it's a more honest approach to dealing with the text. And so, again, this book, this commentary is accessible. It would be a very beneficial read for faith communities, reading communities, churches, Bible classes who are trying to understand Isaiah more clearly. There will be some language that will be somewhat controversial in that he doesn't take a unified a position of unified authorship with Isaiah. He doesn't see Isaiah as being a prophetic foresight of Jesus per se. Um, he takes some fairly open-minded views on the church and its position within the empire, and that sees America as an empire. And so these will be fairly controversial, but I think that overall this would be a very helpful read for your faith community. Thanks, and have a blessed day.